I find it kind of funny. Every time a new game comes out that's hyped up in any sort of capacity, it seems like people immediately put it down on release. It's almost like they purposely set their expectations too high, just so they have something to be disappointed by later. No Man's Sky is just another game to suffer from this hype syndrome. So let's forget about all the hype and hate for a moment and focus on the game itself. The first thing I usually talk about are the graphics, because it's the first thing you see, and No Man's Sky is beautiful. The graphics in this game aren't hyper-realistic, but they do what they need to do. It goes for kind of realistic cel-shaded mix. I really like this style because it allows the game to load faster and for these enormous open areas. You see, the thing about No Man's Sky is that it goes a step beyond open world, and it's more like an open universe. Each planet is about the size of a planet, and each star system has 3 to 5 planets. In all honesty, you could probably spend a lifetime just on one planet, but you would be missing out on experiencing just how beautiful the game really is. Every planet has these unique aesthetics, and really almost at any point you could take a screenshot and use it as the cover art for the game. Whether it's fields of grass and colorful trees, or an ice planet with raging storms, or even a desolate radiated hellscape with sand blasting across the terrain. There's a certain beauty in knowing that all these things are randomly generated. So what do you actually do in the game other than traveling between planets? Well, the story itself is reminiscent of the kind of stories in games like Dark Souls. You're given a vague idea of what to do and where to go, and it's really up to the player to spend as long or as little as they like looking into the details of it. The good thing is that the mystery will keep your interest. The bad thing is that it really isn't going to appeal to players who like a very exposition heavy and direct narrative. Without giving too much away, the goals of the game are either to find your way to the center of the galaxy for unknown reasons, or to pursue something called the Atlas, also for unknown reasons. And you can think of all the planets you stop at and the aliens you meet as sort of pit stops along the way. The main idea being to refuel and craft new technology to help you in the journey ahead. And there is quite a bit of gathering and crafting. Different planets are rich in different resources, so you'll have to find one that suits your current needs. Whether it's needing plutonium to fuel your ship, or rare metals to add augmentations to your biosuit or multi-tool. And there are several ways to go about this. Some people have complained that the game is boring because all you do is mine and move on to the next planet and mine some more. And while I don't want to tell people that they're playing the game wrong, what I will say is that playing the game in the most monotonous and boring way possible is monotonous and boring. There's so much more you can do. Treasure hunting or item hunting for one is extremely profitable, but dangerous because it tends to upset the local robot aliens. And then there's combat itself, which can be profitable because you can loot the things you destroy for technology or valuable trade goods. And this leads into a whole branch of progression where maybe instead of upgrading your multi-tool for mining, all the augmentations you add to it are for combat. And then there's just exploring and trying to learn alien languages. You'll have these encounters where an alien will ask you for something and you're given several options on what you can give it. Based on how much of the language you know, you'll be able to work out what they want and give them the right item. And then they'll give you something as a reward. And then you can find these drop pods with upgrades to your biosuit in them. The first time I found one of these, it blew my mind. It's hard to describe, but I suddenly felt like I was playing a Metroid game. And I could hear that music in my head when I stood in the drop pod and upgraded my suit. And then there's upgrading your ship, and there's space combat. And you need to find a way to get more money through mining or treasure hunting or helping out aliens to buy better ships and have better augments in them. And pirates will come and try to destroy you and steal your trade goods. So you have to keep this constant balance with how your ship is upgraded between cargo slots and weapons and shields. So there's always something to do, something to improve on while you're working your way toward an end goal. Now, the game itself isn't without flaws. One of the major problems is that the online features aren't really working right now. You'll probably always see this little notice in the bottom of your screen that says you aren't connected, and people have reported not being able to see each other in game, but hopefully they'll have that fixed soon. I want to give the developer the benefit of the doubt here. It hasn't bothered me too much. My experience hasn't hinged on the online features, and it's kind of unrealistic to expect any online game to work for the first 2 weeks or so. The game is also a little bit buggy. I haven't really experienced anything that was game-breaking, but there are plenty of times where I've come across something that just doesn't seem right, like being able to activate the same beacon over and over to search for crashed ships without needing to spend any resources or do anything. Another problem is that the game crashes occasionally. This has happened to me about 3 times. Usually it's when I try to warp to another system. Once again, it hasn't really soured my experience, but it is kind of annoying. One thing gameplay-wise that I wish was different is that not a lot of information is given in some ways. Like, if you place two similar augmentations next to each other, the border color changes. I assume it means they have a larger benefit, but I don't know how much, and the game never tells you about it in the first place. And then there are these colored rings that I think show how powerful each aspect of your pieces of equipment are, but it's all very cryptic. I don't know what it means. There's also the fact that there doesn't seem to be a screen that tells you how much of an alien language you know, and you can't see your reputation with each alien faction. It gives you a one-word descriptor like test subject. I don't know if that's high or low or what. And then finally, there's something that doesn't really affect me because I'm on PS4, but the PC version of the game apparently runs like garbage. Games shouldn't be rushed out like that if they aren't ready, but it continues to happen. I hope that the developer gives people a refund if they ask for it, or at the very least puts out some fixes soon. So is No Man's Sky a bad game? Absolutely not. It's a pretty good game that just didn't quite meet people's exceptionally high expectations. Ultimately, the game is a primarily single-player experience about exploration, whereas I think people wanted it to be the next Minecraft. So why is it that so many people hate it so much? Well, I have a few theories. I think people hated this game before it was released. I think people wanted to hate it. They wanted it to be bad just because of how excited people were getting about it. Gamers are kind of funny like that. It seems to happen every time a popular game comes out. How else would you explain all the negative reviews for it coming out the same day the game was released? It came out Monday night, or in most places Tuesday morning. And by Tuesday afternoon, I was seeing negative reviews for it. Why is it suddenly acceptable to give a review on a game you've only played for a few hours? It really makes me wonder how much these people actually played the game. Some of the reviews talk about things being boring within a few hours, but I'm still not bored after 20 or so hours. It makes me wonder, did these people even start with the game's story? Are they even aware it has a story? It doesn't really start until a few hours in. How can you not be intrigued by the mystery and ambience and sheer beauty? Expectations were just so high. But what did people expect? I hear a lot of talk about being disappointed, but I seldom hear exactly what the game doesn't have that they wanted, other than the multiplayer features not working at the moment. I got exactly what I expected to get with this game. I watched the developer talk and I knew exactly what this game was going to be. And then there's the bandwagon effect. People just disliking the game because other people dislike it. They don't want to have a dissenting opinion. And frankly, I don't blame them. The internet will eat you alive if you say something that the majority of people don't agree with. You know, all these YouTubers talk about how gaming journalism is so corrupt and biased, but then they fail to see how their own reviews are biased and tailored to appeal to their audience because they're afraid they might lose subscribers. Is No Man's Sky for everyone? No, I don't think this game is for mainstream gamers, and that's part of the problem too. It's not a competitive game, and most gamers want competitive aspects in their games. That's probably why most of them got bored so fast. And it's not bad to want games to have a competitive component, just like it's not bad when games don't have one. Without changing a thing about the game itself, if it was marketed a little bit differently, I'm almost sure that this would have been considered the next Journey. Who knows, maybe if the developer fixes the online issues and releases some free DLC, people will give this game another chance. Well, what do you think? Do you like No Man's Sky? If so, what do you like about it? If not, tell me why. Until next time, I'm Kothorix, and you have a wonderful day.